All right, everyone, welcome to the Legendary Service Podcast. This is Brian Remington. This is episode 5. Yes. And I'm joined by a couple of very special guests today, our friends at Emergency Air in Phoenix, Arizona. I have Rick Cubas, General Manager, and I have Mr. JP, Jonathan Palermo, Technician out at EA. So thank you guys for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So just as a quick reminder to all the listeners, the goal of the podcast here is to hear and see what others are doing out there, not just in your own branch, but there's some amazing things happening across the entire organization. There's a lot of things that bind us and unite us as an organization. And so there's some amazingly cool things going on, and we invite guests every week to come on and share what they're doing and how that relates to what other guys are doing. The way I see it, Rick, JP, is we can stand up and train every day, but there's a larger impact when we hear a guy like JP get on and say, hey, look, I'm doing this and that. Here's how I'm applying this. And it kind of brings it to life, especially for our techs out there. So thank you guys for taking a little bit of time out of your day and joining us.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure, man.
So Rick, I'm gonna ask you a question. When we're trying to plan this episode, trying to figure out who we want to bring on next, you were pounding the table. You're like, I got to get my man JP on. So introduce JP for us. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Oh man, such an honor, first of all, because of just how we started together when we first took over the business, and where he's at today is just wild. But yeah, Jonathan Palermo, we call him JP, and he's really an all-around guy. You know, he's not a one-trick pony by any means of the word. Very, very well-rounded as a service technician, from IAQ to closing sales to flipping to just good old-fashioned diagnostics. We could put JP on any call and he's going to perform. So beautiful. yeah, it's
beautiful. So a little bit of background. When did we acquire EA, Emergency Air?
November 4th, 2022.
Okay, so almost coming up on that 2-year mark.
Yes.
And JP, you were a technician there previous to the acquisition, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about that transition, and maybe, how you were feeling early on, and then kind of what's transpired over the last couple of years.
So originally before they came, we were being ran by a couple guys who were used to running UPS box stores. So they were really in an industry that they didn't understand. And so they didn't know how to help or give us help or train us, things like that. So they just kind of let everyone off on their own, and their friends got, treatment and blah, blah, blah. So I was honestly at a point of where I was looking for jobs. I was trying to find another place to go. And we didn't know anything about. I had heard a rumor that Emergency Air was being sold, and I asked the owners. They denied that, so I kind of just let it go. And then one day, Rick and George show up, and it was kind of. I was shocked, but I was almost a little bit relieved as well, because I also thought that, hey, maybe this is my move to another company with new owners. I just kind of thought, I'm going to give this a shot. Let's see if it works. And if it does, great. If not, I'm already on my way out anyway. So that was kind of how I felt when they came in originally.
Okay. So fast forward a few months, Rick is there. Obviously one of the things you mentioned was that you weren't really getting the training. They weren't really helping you. So talk to us about the training and what's been going on down there, how that's benefited you personally and professionally.
Okay. Yeah. So when they came over, they introduced what we know as the 12 keys. And when they came, it was instant training. Like, hey, we're here to help you guys. We want to get you better. We want you, to be the best. That's kind of, we want you to be legendary. And it takes a lot of training to be that. So they really put a lot of effort into training us and learning the 12 keys in the beginning. It really, like when you really pick that 12 keys apart, it really boils down to just going and taking care of clients and being a good human. Like Rick says all the time, just we find good humans and we bring them to work for us. And that's kind of what happened to me. As I kind of was in a slump for a while, and I kind of just said, look, I'm going to stick to the 12 keys. I'm going to try my best at it. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, then, no real loss, because I was kind of on my way out in my mind anyways. So I tried the keys, and it really not only changed how I work, but it also changed kind of my home life, just the way I interact with, my wife, my kids, my family members, things like that. Just helps me to kind of just be a better human, more kind all the way around. It really just takes you out of the equation and puts the customer, the other person, at the center stage kind of. And it just helped me to understand that I'm here for the client, not for me. So I'm kind of was always going out to, okay, what can I make money on here? What can I make money on here? And it really isn't about that. It's really the client calls us to either, have a maintenance or fix a part to get their unit running. And I used to just kind of play my own game kind of, but now with focusing on the customer, it really breaks down their walls to let them know, like, look, I'm not here with my own agenda. I'm here because you asked me here, and I want to do what you want me to do for you.
Beautiful. I'm so glad. I mean, the couple of big key points there that you pointed out is that I'm not here for me. I'm here for my client, and what that does to break down their walls. And I'm so glad that, you've picked up on those things the last couple of years. And can you give us an example of something that you found has just like been the biggest game changer in 12 keys that you feel like just took you to another level, like one or two specific things that really changed your trajectory?
The introduction on the 12 keys, the intro to the call is the most important part. The thank you at the beginning of the call. It completely changes the tone for that call. I believe that it breaks down more walls than any other thing that we do, is just saying that thank you. And then also, because during that introduction, as you're going through explaining, exactly what we're going to be doing today, you're setting expectations, and you're not shocking them with anything. They're kind of planned for what's going to happen because you prepped them for that.
Love that. And so, you implement the 12 keys. Like you said, it impacted the way your personal life, it obviously has impacted your professional life. Tell us, so you implement the 12 keys, and obviously it's a never ending pathway to mastery, right? But sure. How's your income changed? How's your, how do you look at this career differently today than you did 2 years ago?
I've definitely found like reignited my fire, I guess. I was so burnt out. When I was wanting to leave, I was wanting to go leave the industry, just be done with AC. So it kind of reignited that for me. Mm-hmm. I mean, prior to Rick coming, and I mean, I say Rick because I've got a real close relationship with him. I work with him a lot. But before they came, I had done, I think, 1.2 million the year before. And I thought that was pretty good. That was kind of on track for what I usually do, about 1 million and some change. And I mean, they came, showed me the 12 keys, and that next year I ended up at, 2.3 million. So almost doubled my revenue. Income comes with that as well.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you were on the President's Club trip this last year. Tell us about that.
I was able to go to Jamaica, yeah, for a week. It was weird because we were all at the, like an all-inclusive resort, and you're eating all this fancy stuff and all these drinks, and you almost feel like you're stealing from these people. You're like looking out as you walk out, looking over the shoulder. It just feels, it was incredible. The best trip I've ever had in my life. And I like to go places. I like to go on vacation. My family does too. So we don't stay home a lot, but that trip was like nothing I've ever been on.
Beautiful. Rick, what are some things that you want to get out of JP today that he can really share with the entire group that you feel like is just his secret sauce that we can get some takeaways from?
Man, a lot. I want to show you. Can you guys see this picture?
Yeah.
Okay, this was day one of training. This guy he's not feeling it. That's JP.
So for those of you that are just listening and not watching, he's mean mugging. He's like, what the heck?
Two of these guys who are both still with us, Nick and JP. They skeptical, right? Coming on board. But for our listeners, the thing I love about JP, and you're listening to this podcast, you're actually a team member of ours. You were hired because we believe you're a good human. And when you look at the 12 keys, what it's going to do is unlock the good human stuff out of you to the highest potential. That's what the 12 keys is. It's not a sales book. It's not a how to get rich overnight book. It's really, you were hired because we fell in love with you as a person, and the 12 keys are going to unlock the good stuff that's within you. So when I think about JP, he's regular. He's just a good old fashioned guy who really wants to take care of people to the highest level. And now, by the way, there's good humans out there that just don't take care of people well. They don't know the process. They don't know how to be thorough, how to do all the things that are necessary for legendary service. So when I think about JP, he's really the epitome of the poster boy, if you will, for that partnership with the 12 keys. So as basic as this might sound, I'm going to tell you, you could revolutionize your paycheck overnight with a couple simple things. And one of them is there's a trust. Now that comes from management, as you know, Brian, right? We have to lead in such a way where our team pays attention and they have this trust level to even give the 12 keys a shot, right? That's 100%. Number one. We got to prove that out, and that takes time, but if we do it right, it happens really quick. But the second part really comes from JP or for our listeners, and that is the partnership with the leadership team. And what that means is it's pre-gaming. No matter how good JP gets and no matter what kind of momentum string he's on, he's calling. He's pre-gaming. You and I have talked about that in the past, Brian, on our fix-it calls, right? Like when it talks about, like when we're talking about being a broken record.
Yeah.
He keeps the simple stuff simple and focused. So when we're talking about how we're going to do the intro, how we're going to do the thank you. Like we've said it 1,000 times over and over, but we keep those simple things simple and we keep it the main thing. Yeah. And we repeat it constantly every single day without fail.
Consistent action gets consistent results, right?
That's exactly right.
Never too good to do the fundamentals.
Yeah. And there's so many times where JP's like, yes, I got to do that. And we've talked about it 1,000 times. So he's got the humility. I'm going to tell you that, which that's one of the qualities we look for when we're hiring somebody. So if you're a listener right now, you've got some humility we thought would be a great benefit to you and us as partners. But it takes humility to have coachability, right? So as we go throughout our day, it's like fresh for him. Hey, don't forget this, don't forget that. Oh yeah, you know what? I'm on it. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do that. And even post game, when he gets a 0, he's like, you know what? I got to do that. It's never oh yeah, you could have got this or could have got that. It's none of this bad attitude stuff. It's I should have, I would have, could have, should have. Next one is going in. Just like Love Jordan says, he misses a shot, boom, the next one's going in. And more times than not, again, we talk about the consistency. Yes, he gets zeros from time to time, but he is one of our most consistent players on the team. But it all stems from servant leadership. So it's not just for management as it relates to servant leadership. He's leading the customer in the home and putting their needs first, just like every single manager should be doing, right? Putting the needs of the team first and foremost. And that's what builds the likability and ultimately what builds the trust in the home. You know, if they like you, they're listening to you. If they trust you, they're buying from you. So JP understands this to a very, very high level. So good human, put into the 12 keys, extracting all the good human potential in a process that maximizes legendary service. And we just do that to a high level on a daily basis, whether it's with me. And again, we do have a close relationship. I love closing deals with JP, but he's calling somebody and he's strategizing with a manager and or team member. He utilizes his resources, you know,
and when I
Fix It group as a whole, he's got a lot of resources that he taps into. What were you saying, JP?
I was going to say, when I don't do that phone call and I don't talk to a manager before, during, whatever it may be, really the best is before, during, and at the end.
Yes.
But I don't do that. I can watch my numbers go down very, very fast. So it really, mindset is everything. And getting zeros will tank your mindset if you let it. So what I've had to learn to do is kind of like what Rick says, call him and not kind of beat myself up, but like I just had a call with him and I'm like, you know what? That's exactly what I should have done. And I will not let it happen again. I'm not going to forget to call you right before I leave, because that's the most important time. Is if you're about to walk away with a zero, just reach out and say, hey, what can we do to help? And usually we figure out something. You just don't walk away with a zero.
Love that.
Hey.
So here, as it relates to the 12 keys for the listeners, what we're talking about here is, you know, really key 1 and key 2, mindset, game planning. Key 9, which is like a manager assist, right? And then key 12, evaluate yourself, right? And so you're partnering up with a manager multiple times every single call, right? And to a high level. Now, I got to ask you, because JP, not a lot of guys are consistent with this, right? No matter how much I ask and no matter how much I tell the guys, hey, call me, I'm here to help you. Call me, text me, let's game plan this next one. There's some guys that take me up on that, and there's a lot of guys that don't. And so, why do you think that is?
I'll be completely honest with you. I absolutely hate calling people on the phone. I do not like to talk on the phone at all. Rick will tell you that. But so it has taken, this has been a process for me. This has probably been the hardest thing for me to learn, and it's been the most beneficial. So I don't like calling on the phone either, but I know that every time I do call, I turn the call around. If I'm leaving with a zero, I typically, if I'm going to call someone, I will leave with something, whether it's, you know, $150 or $1,000, we'll leave with something. Calling the manager just takes all the authority. It doesn't take all your authority away, but it kind of, you're not the last say. You have someone else that can go above and beyond to help out your customer.
So we've talked about the power of game planning and just doing the consistent, you know, mindset check-in and game planning how we're going to approach the next call. You know, you mentioned you don't like getting on the phone, but in talking with your guys and just knowing guys in general, what do you think the biggest barrier is to guys picking up the phone and game planning their next call before they go?
A lot of it's pride, I think.
Pride.
A lot of it's pride. Just thinking, you know, like, dude, I've been doing this 14 years. I know what I'm doing. Like, I can do this. But
so good, man.
I'm humbled every day by Rick. Helps me out a lot, and Rick he's got like this thing where he'll just know when I'm going in the dumps, and he'll say, "Hey, good morning, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Dang!" Like, of course he knows something. I don't know what. I'm sure he's just doing it just to keep in touch with me. But it's usually that boosts me into saying, okay, this is what's going on, or calling him and talking. And he's been a huge asset for me. Huge.
So pride. Rick, what were you going to say?
I wanted to, and I appreciate that, JP. We are, as you get to know your team, and one thing us managers really hone in on across the board is that love connection. And when I mean love connection, I mean true, like, I love JP, right? I love our team. We're just connected. This isn't a job for us. Like, this is our sanctuary. This is what we look forward to doing. And I think, to piggyback on what he's saying, a lot of our techs, I think JP would agree, they feel like they're bugging us.
Yes.
And that's a problem on my end, because I'm doing something wrong that's making them feel that way. No matter how much we try, sometimes the tech just feels like, the manager's just always busy. But if you're a listener right now, I'm going to tell you what, and I think Brian would 100% agree, that there's nothing more important in our business right now than helping our team members.
100%.
Period. All this paper and all this admin stuff we got going on, first of all, there's nothing sexy about that stuff. We would rather be on the phone with y'all, I'm telling you, because we're not on the front line anymore in the field closing deals. We got to live through you, and we get to win through you guys now, and it's the most fun thing to do. So I can't encourage it more. That's one thing. The second part is this. If and I did get permission from JP to talk about this, but back to the mindset thing, Brian. We all have different demons that we struggle with, and if you're listening right now, I could tell you we all struggle to different levels in our mindset. And JP is a top champion, but don't get it twisted. He has mindset challenges more than most. And this guy gets through it. It's not a function of, do you have mindset problems or not? He has a mindset problem almost every day. He conquers it every single day before each and every call. Some days are better than others, but what I'm saying is, it's never a one and done. Partner up with management, partner up with other team members, and get cleared up. I have to do the same thing. I do it with my management team across the Fix It group. I do it with George. I do it with Brian. Do it with several team members, even within my own building here, that get me thinking straight again. And the more you do that, the more you have partnership. You don't fly under the radar. You're not this Lone Ranger. The more you're just better prepared for each instance that comes across. And that's what I'm really excited about, because JP doesn't wake up fired up and ready to conquer the world. He's a regular guy with extraordinary love and heart for people. And sometimes he just needs a little extra partnership to get to the next level on every call, and he conquers it. And that's the beautiful thing, right?
I'm so glad you shared that, because I think sometimes a lot of the guys out there, they see the guys that make President's Club, and they're just like unicorns, and they're just like, oh, that's JP. He's just different, and But I'm so glad you shared that, because I think really what you're talking about with JP is very, very common. And sure. With all of our champions, it's just human, right? It's easy to kind of focus on what's not right and what we wish were better, and looking at obstacles. And, we exist, and I know I can speak for Rick, George, all of our managers. We exist as a business to improve the quality of life of our people, first and foremost. And if we do that, and we do that well, then our customers are going to win, and our business is going to win, right? And so for those of you out there that are worried about bothering us, or they're busy or whatever, it's one thing for me to say it. Obviously, I have to prove it, and we have to prove it daily. But we want to help you win. We want your quality of life to improve. And we want, in all facets, and definitely at work, right? And so pick up the phone and call, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's weird, even if you hate talking on the phone, even if you feel you might get exposed because you don't know the 12 keys as well as you should.
Yeah.
I have conversations every day where we're talking about stuff, and I'm like, wait, you don't know that, right? And so sometimes those pre-games turn into like little mini trainings, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I would rather that than you just flying blind and
no doubt.
striking out left and right, day in and day out.
Let me add to that, Brian, real quick. I'm going to take it to one more level, and that's this, that we won't have a leader on the team that shuts you down and makes you feel like crap after a call. I'm going to tell you right now, like, it may not feel good if you're being coached because you're being corrected and whatnot. But the fact is this, is the leaders that we have on this team, they're required. I mean, it's not even so much of a requirement as much as this is who we hire in the Fix It group from a leadership standpoint, is that you can expect to get the coaching you need to win, right? And it doesn't necessarily always feel good, but the intention, the heart is always to help you win to a high level. And again, it will affect your personal life as well to a really high. I hear this all the time, but my point is, we can't, Brian and I and the rest of the management team don't have a position unless we bring that value to you.
Yes.
So we're asking you to tap into it. We want to prove that out. And if you give it a chance, a consistent chance, you will 100% see without a shadow of a doubt that, number one, it's what we want to do. It's what we love to do. You know, I get those calls all the time. Boss, you busy? Like, well, yeah, I'm always busy, but like, I'm looking forward. We're waiting for those phone calls. You just have to know that there's nothing more important than looking forward to those phone calls to help you on the front line, for sure.
100%. Hey, so we're gonna kind of put a bow on this thing. Really, what I'd like to do is, you know, we've got JP here on the podcast here. Be thinking about, okay, who's listening to this right now? It's field people, it's technicians, salespeople. If you could give one nugget to everybody that they could go implement today, or whether it's a perspective shift, a mindset shift, or actually something that they can apply, what can you give them today as we close up this podcast?
I guess I would say my culture index is kind of like an educator, and so I typically educate a lot of my clients. And what I have found to be the best for me, especially with this 12 key process, the way it's set up, is to educate the customer up front with those first few keys, so that you break down the objection walls for later. Like, you know, 90% of breakdowns are caused by dirt, dust, and debris. So my job today is, I'm going to go up in the attic, pull out your blower wheel and housing, and make sure that it's completely cleaned. So I'm going to deep clean that, and then put that back in. That way, that system's not having to work so hard, because when it does, your motors tend to leak oil, start to fail, and we don't want that to happen. And then when you go up into the attic and you bring the wheel down and it's dirty, and then you go to put the blower back in and it's leaking oil, you've kind of broke down those things, and they're like, oh, this is what you said was going to happen. We need to replace this. That has been huge for me, is prepping the client to avoid objections.
Yes. Educate before evidence, man. Rick, you're doing a good job out there. JP has this down. I love it.
Yeah, he does.
I love it. Educate before evidence. Too many times we show evidence of a problem, and then we educate the client on what it is, what it does, how it happened, what you need to do. And what you don't realize is that turns you into a salesperson. But when you educate before you even see it, and then you show evidence when the time is right, now you are there to help them solve the issue that you've come across together. What were you going to say, JP?
Yeah, one more little thing real quick that I think will be huge for a lot of people, because it was huge for me, is in this process, I have learned to not come down with a laundry list of repairs. And I, up until recently, I still sometimes struggle with that, to be completely honest, because for 13 years, this is just what I've done. I'm very used to that process. But with this 12 keys, you're locking in one small part at a time. And I've learned that step selling like that has, that's what takes me to the $30,000 tickets, is that $500 repair.
Love that. Like that's all about key number 7, securing the initial repair. Love that. Love that.
So good.
It's huge.
If the client will trust, if the client trusts you with something small, they're more likely to trust you with something big.
For sure.
And too many times we laundry list it, and at the very end of the call, we bring them a list of 4 or 5 things. Yep. Now they're paralyzed by indecision.
Yes, exactly.
And it's too much of something for them that trust barrier to overcome sometimes. It was working when you got here, and now you're telling me it's going to be $2,500 to keep my system going. Yep. That's a tough pill to swallow at the end, right? And now you're done. You got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, dude, huge nuggets, guys. I hope you heard JP loud and clear. Educate before evidence. Secure that initial repair, and it's going to lead to a lot more success. Everything it is that you want is on the other side of that stuff.
Yes.
Rick, any parting thoughts?
Man, JP, I couldn't be prouder of this guy, man. And the last thing I will say is there's a lot of guys coming to me the past few weeks, even just asking for financial advice. Like they want a financial advisor because they're making so much money. They don't know what to do with it. This is real. Like they're like, this is, but some people might think about that, look at Jamaica and President's Club, and just, it's something that they're not familiar with. And I'm here to encourage you, to let you know that JP is as normal as it gets. You can revolutionize your life today by implementation. It's not a difficult thing to do. You don't need some slick Rick coming in there with sales tricks. It's really this 12 keys and the partnership with leadership, and to have this belief system and know that you also can do the same thing as JP is talking about, and make money to a point where you need financial advice on what to do with your money. It's crazy, guys. I mean, this has been happening the past 3 months more than ever before. So anyway, just want to encourage you, and to keep things simple, keep the main thing every single day. It's not a one and done. It's a constant thing every single day that you got to be consciously aware of. Brian, thanks again for having us on. We're grateful to be partnered with y'all.
Thank you, guys. JP, Rick, keep killing it out there. We love what you're doing. JP, it was so awesome to hear from you, and hear the amazing things that you're doing. And it's if you think about the word extraordinary, it's just extraordinary, right? And so love to hear about your success. I'm sure you're on track for another President's Club trip.
I'll be there. I'll be there.
So I'm proud of you for doing that. Obviously,
thank you.
Life-changing stuff. Rick, thanks for all the amazing nuggets that I'm taking notes as you're talking, because some beautiful things that you've shared with us today.
My pleasure, buddy.
This is the Legendary Service Podcast, episode 5.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
All right. We'll see you guys.